Introduction of guests. The member from Prince Edward Hastings.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It's an honor to welcome a good friend of mine and a councillor from the beautiful county of Prince Edward, Robert Quaife, to the legislature today.
Thank you. Introduction of guests. The member from Parkdale High Park.
Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure and all of our pleasures to welcome faith leaders from ISARC here in the House today. So give them a welcome and a round of applause, please.
The Speaker make those decisions.
Sorry. Yes, the member from, help me. Oak Ridge is Markham.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to welcome the family of Paige Glory Samuel in the East Members Gallery, her mother, Randa Barsoom Samuel, and brother, Emmanuel. Welcome to Queen's Park.
Thank you. The member from Perth Wellington.
Thank you, Speaker. I'd like to introduce Kathy Dobin. She is the mother of Jared Dobin, who is a page with us for the next couple of weeks.
The member from York South-Weston.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm delighted to introduce some guests from Italy here to our legislature. Renowned Italian film director and scriptwriter Marco Tullio Giordana, who's here for the screening of his latest movie here in Toronto. Film producer Gianluca Bertogna from Lotus Productions, and their lawyer Francesco Caroleo, and they're accompanied by Cristiano De Florentis, who's one of the founders of the Italian Contemporary Film Festival held here in Toronto every year. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. I'd like to give a very warm welcome to Tracy Wiersma, the mother of Addison Arone in the West Members Gallery. Addison's a page here in the legislature.
To the introduction of guests, the member from Sarnia Lambton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my great pleasure today to introduce the mayor of Enniskillen Township, good friend Kevin Marriott, down here to support Lisa Thompson's private member.
To the introduction of guests, the member from Huron-Bruce.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. You caught me by surprise there. I am absolutely thrilled to introduce today Mayor of Kincardine, Larry Kramer, one of the most beautiful municipalities in Ontario.
Thank you. Introduction of guests, the member from Durham.
Introduce a couple of guests from my riding of Durham, Keith Sobar as well as Phil Coulter. They're here to speak to us about jobs.
Thank you. Further introductions, the member for Timmins James Bay.
How easily they forget.
It came to me.
Mr. Speaker, I would ask indulgence of the House to allow me to make the following. A longtime member staff of ours, Norm McCaskill, unfortunately found his wife dead last night when he arrived at home. And I would ask for the members of this Assembly to take a few seconds just to ponder on that, just how precious life can be. And we grieve for the loss to Mr. McCaskill, his family, and those that knew her. Linda was a great person.
Is the member asking for unanimous consent? Just announcing. I appreciate that, and I'm sure all members grieve with the family. Introductions. We have with us today in the Speaker's Gallery a delegation from the Republic of Uzbekistan, led by the Speaker of the Legislative Assembly of the Oyli Mahadist, the Honorable Deloram G. Tomaska Hamadova. Welcome to our delegation today. And I apologize, Uzbekistan, which is on the map. So thank you very much. We appreciate you being here. It is now time for oral questions. The Leader of Her Majesty's Loyal Opposition.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is to the Premier. Premier, yesterday I was in Niagara at Standpack Manufacturing. They make world-leading packaging for food products. They have a plant in Ontario and they have a plant in Texas. They tell me, Premier, that the cost of energy for the plant in Texas are 69% lower than here in the province of Ontario.
Wow.
And then they tell me they hear from the auditor's report about the Mississauga gas plant cancellation, a tale of corruption and abject mismanagement. What kind of signal do your energy policies send to employers like Stanpack? Doesn't that tell them to send the jobs down to Texas when we in the PC party have a better plan to have those jobs right here in the province?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Well, I'm proud to live in Ontario, and I'm very proud, Mr. Speaker, that we have put in place a long-term energy plan that, Mr. Speaker, will be
The member from Halton come to order. Premier.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. When you look at the conditions, the overall conditions for industry, employment, and quality of life in Ontario, Mr. Speaker, whether we talk about our excellent healthcare system, our world-class education system, Mr. Speaker, our infrastructure, Mr. Speaker, and the reality that we have a 20-year long-term energy plan, Mr. Speaker, that we began to put in place when we came in office in 2003 because the energy sector was in such disarray, Mr. Speaker, after the previous government had been in office. Mr. Speaker, I believe that we have all the fundamentals to bring industry to Ontario, and that's what's happening, Mr. Speaker.
Supplementary.
Well, thank you, Speaker. Back to the Premier. I'm disappointed the Premier took that answer. We all are. You know, of course, the folks at Stanpack, they're proud of our province of Ontario. They built the company there. They've got a strong, competitive team that works at Stanpack. But they're not proud of what the Auditor General came up with when it came to that Mississauga gas plant scandal, a story of corruption, a story of extraordinary mismanagement. I would have expected the Premier to stand on her feet today and say that was wrong, to say who's going to be held accountable, and to say we're going to turn things around. 69% higher, Premier. They want to buy new machines. They're injection molding machines. 40 new people. I want to see those jobs here in Ontario. I want to see those jobs in Niagara and Hamilton, not down in Texas. When they see the scandals of the gas plant and your green energy policies that are going to drive prices 40 to 60% higher.
Question.
I stand with Lisa Thompson, member here on Bruce, support her bill to turn off the taps and get our hydro price under control. Premier, will you?
Be seated, please. Be seated, please. Thank you. Premier.
Mr. Speaker, I appreciate the Leader of the Opposition's passion on this, but Mr. Speaker, my understanding that is a leading source of farm revenue in Texas is wind power, Mr. Speaker. So, in fact, the jobs that we have brought to Ontario, Mr. Speaker, the fact that we have jump-started a green energy sector, Mr. Speaker, I think speaks highly of our understanding of the future.
Premier.
Mr. Speaker, part of what we have done in this province is we have created green energy jobs, Mr. Speaker. We jump-started an industry that really didn't exist in Ontario. So I understand that we need to move forward in a thoughtful and collaborative way, Mr. Speaker, but it was our responsibility to put some stability into the energy sector. That's what we've been doing, Mr. Speaker. That's why we have a long-term plan, Mr. Speaker.
Final supplementary.
Well, thank you, Speaker. It's disappointing that the Premier doesn't seem to have a grasp of some of the basic impacts of energy policy on our competitiveness as a province. Do wind turbines exist in other parts of the world? Of course they do. But what doesn't exist is the exorbitant subsidies that they pay up to 60% more for power that are driving jobs in our province. And what doesn't exist in other states and provinces? The kind of scandal and corruption behind their deals at Mississauga gas plant. We have a choice to make, Premier. Do we want those jobs in Ontario, or are you going to chase those jobs south to Texas and other jurisdictions? Are you going to slam on the brakes and go the opposite direction and invest instead in reliable, affordable energy and bring these expensive experiments to the room? You said, Premier, you're going to change direction when it comes to these feed-in tariff programs, the expensive wind turbine projects. But you're sounding a lot like Dalton McGuinty all over again. Will you stand up and support Lisa Thompson's bill and bring it on back?
seated, please. Be seated, please. Premier.
Very much, Mr. Speaker. And let me just be clear. What the Leader of the Opposition is talking about is killing clean energy jobs. That's what he's talking about, Mr. Speaker. The other thing that the member opposite is talking about, Mr. Speaker, is he's talking about turning the clock back on reduction of air pollution, Mr. Speaker. The underlying reason for getting into this...
Stop the clock for a second. As it is a whole just mammoth voice coming out of here, I'm going to pick individuals, and I'm starting with the member from Prince Edward Hastings, and then I'm going to, if I pick you off, regrettably, you're going to feel the wrath of my dissatisfaction with not being able to hear any of the answer and hearing the entire question. Premier.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. There's an economic imperative and there's a social imperative, a health imperative to having green energy, Mr. Speaker, and shutting down the coal-fired plants. You talk to families of children who have asthma, Mr. Speaker, and they will tell you that they want the air to be cleaner because they want their children to be able to participate, Mr. Speaker. And we know that the actions that we've taken are making a difference, and we're going to continue to keep that plan in place, Mr. Speaker.
New question. From here on, Bruce.
Thank you very much. My question is for the Premier. Through the media clippings today, we're seeing that finally they're getting it. Mainstream media is citing the fact that you cannot be trusted any longer. And I can tell you, no one trusts your long-term energy plan either. I hesitate to...
Stop, please. Stop the clock. Stop the clock. I'm sorry, I did not hear who the question was directed to. The member from the PN Carlo can show all her disgust all she wants. If it wasn't said, it has to be directed. Please.
My question is for the Premier. And today in mainstream media clippings, we're seeing that people are finally getting it. People just don't trust you any longer. And honestly, we can't trust your long-term energy plan either, which I'm afraid to say I even hesitate to call a plan, because the only thing that you are doing is driving up energy rates. The expansion of wind energy
Minister
under
of
your plan is not cost efficient. It will raise energy costs to families and businesses another 40 to 50, 60% even. Municipalities, families, businesses want relief now.
Thank you.
You just don't understand the magnitude. Will you?
Thank you.
Minister of Energy.
Mr. Speaker, the whole issue of wind generation is a very controversial issue. There are people on all sides of the issue. Mr. Speaker, I would like to show the side of the issue that my official critic, the member from Nipissing, is on. Okay, Mr. Speaker, we've had a very successful green energy program. But don't take my word for it, Mr. Speaker. Let's ask the member for Nipissing. Let's ask the member for Nipissing about the value of local green energy. While mayor, he said this: taking advantage of locally available green power resources is a good fit.
Member from Bruce Grey, Old Sound, come to order.
We have for this community.
Member from Dufferin-Caledon, come to order.
I am particularly pleased.
The member from Dufferin-Caledon, come to order a second time.
West Wind Development Inc. for the first half of the project.
The member from Leeds-Grenville, come to order.
That the company's reputation as a responsible wind power developer can put North Bay on the map as a showcase for the sensitive and responsible development.
Thank you. Supplementary.
Speaker, quite frankly, I liked his answer yesterday when he forgot the question. My question goes back to the Premier. Premier, the laughter and the mocking on your side of the House is disrespectful. I know people at home and here in the gallery and the people who are watching today
Attorney General,
are
come to order.
laughing when they open their electricity bills every month. Ontario now has the highest rates in North America, and we're looking at increases of 40 to 60%. And you have to face the fact
Minister of Training, College, Universities, come to order.
It's nothing but a job killer. The Fraser Institute report last week reported that the manufacturing sector has become the hardest hit by your green energy scheme. Premier, will you finally stand up for manufacturing and stand up for Ontario?
Minister of Energy. Be seated, please. Minister of Energy.
I'm she raised the question of the Fraser Institute report. The Fraser Institute report recommends that we go back to coal. They claim that coal is clean.
Dirty coal.
And they're recommending we go back to coal. Mr. Speaker,
the member from Northumberland, Quinte West, is warned.
Our emissions record has been recognized across North America. Not only that, Mr. Speaker, but our emissions record, because of the reduction of coal-burning generation, has been commented on by the Federal Minister of External Affairs, Mr. John Baird, who is a former Minister of Energy here. He took unbelievable credit for Canada, Ontario's record in reducing emissions by eliminating dirty coal.
Final supplementary.
Premier, I'm going to give you one last chance. It's too late for the 600,000 who have already lost their jobs here in Ontario. But it's not too late to work together to move forward with a solid, reliable, affordable energy plan. Premier, you say you like to listen, so with all due respect, listen up. Municipalities want change. Families need change. The manufacturing and business sector need change. Premier, you keep saying you are open to meaningful conversation. Well, Premier, let's have some meaningful conversation in committee with the Ensuring Affordable Energy Act. Last chance, Premier. Will you support Ontario families, municipalities and businesses today and send the Ensuring Affordable Energy Act to committee?
Minister of Energy. You seated, please. You seated, please. Minister of Energy.
We have stated that we have a number of ministries presently working on new rules to give more control to municipalities. But, Mr. Speaker, the opposition has become obsessed with one issue. They've lost their way on energy. They think transmission is what's under the hood of a car. Okay? They think microfit is a Speedo. They think generation is a period of 25 years. They don't talk about their own white paper on energy, Mr. Speaker, which will privatize Hydro One and all the transmission across the province. They will privatize the Ontario power generation and all the nuclear fleet. It is irresponsible. They never talk about it because they're embarrassed by their own policy.
Thank you. Thank you. New question? The member from Toronto Danforth.
Thank you, Speaker. My question to the Premier. Yesterday, Ontario's Auditor General testified that as of last July, that's 9 months ago, the OPA had already spent $245 million on the cancellation of the Mississauga gas plant. The member for Mississauga-Streetsville this morning compared the cancellation to the moonshot. While by July, the Eagle had landed and the costs were known. But for 9 months, the Liberal government has been telling Ontarians the cost was something otherwise. The minister claims he's relying on the OPA for his financial numbers. Why did the Liberal government spend nearly a year claiming that it cost $190 million to cancel Mississauga when the OPA had already spent $245 million?
Minister of Energy.
Minister of Energy.
Minister of Energy.
Mr. Speaker, the Auditor General spent over half a year working on a very complex technical file.
Member from Durham, come to order. Second time. One more and you'll be warned.
The auditor has admitted that he's had access to all the information, all the files. He has produced a report.
Member from Oxford, come to order.
And Mr. Speaker, we have acknowledged that we need to do better in citing our energy infrastructure. Right. The Premier has expanded the mandate of the committee to enable the committee to make those determinations. They apparently are not happy to start working on expanding the areas and the knowledge and the rules around citing infrastructure in cities.
Thank you. Supplementary.
Well, Speaker, Ontario's Auditor General said that the OPA gave him almost all the numbers that he produced. We asked if the minister could call up the OPA and get those numbers themselves. Will the Premier tell her Minister of Energy to contact the OPA today and find out how much they estimate it cost to transfer that plant from Oakville to Napanee?
Mr. Speaker, over a period of over half a year, the OPA was working side by side with the auditor, going over documents, all information was provided to the auditor, working with the OPA. So,
Member from Bruce Grey, Owen Sound, come to order.
Mr. Speaker, I can't understand the question. Now that the auditor has reported independently, he wants us to go back and review the auditor's work. How ridiculous!
Thank you. Final supplementary.
Premier, the public service is filled with qualified and talented people. The Auditor General said he was confident that the public service would have the ability to come up with a pretty good estimate of how much it costs to cancel the Oakville gas plant. You have all the tools you need to bring forward that Oakville price, and you probably have all the numbers at the end of a phone line. Premier, how much will Ontarians be paying in their taxes and electricity rates for the Liberal decision to cancel the Oakville plant?
Minister of Energy.
Mr. Speaker, the part that's yet to be allocated, part of it has